On behalf of the O'Connell family of Kathy, family and friends, welcome to our memorial, our surfer memorial paddle for Ed O'Connell. This is Kathy. For those of you who don't know who Kathy is, this is Kathy.
I'm Ed's wife. If Ed were alive, how would he do? I hope he's watching, and he would be so happy to see both of you here. And I don't know what else to say, but thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
The irony of this day and this spot and why we're here, my first paddle I ever did was in 1978. 1970, I did it for Joe Samoji. Some of you may know who Joe is. If you know who Joe is, just raise your hand. Joe Samoji was a Vietnam veteran. He was a surfer. Named a lot of the breaks that we surf along here. And the very first paddle we ever did was for Joe, who passed away in 1978. As you know, from reading my blog or just knowing who I am, because I never stopped talking about him, but Joe was very special to me. And when Joe passed away, there was a void in my life because of the surf and his connection to Vietnam, the war in Vietnam. I had this huge hole in my heart that was gone. And somewhere along the line, I guess it was in the 90s, when I first caught wind of Ed. And you all know Ed as a photographer, surf photographer, but Ed was a surfer, and he was a Vietnam veteran. So meeting Ed and having the connection between surfing and that war, I was whole again. So we had this bond that we could talk about surfing and the war. Like I said, you all know him as a photographer, but he served in Vietnam. Let me tell you about when he served in 1968. Ed, who lived in Cambridge, the city of cement, right? It was just asphalt and cement. That's where Ed lived. He gets drafted and they ship him off to Vietnam, where he's now spending time in the jungle as a combat medic. He's on the jungle floors going, what? How did this happen? So he's there for 3 months on the ground with the grunts as a combat medic. Didn't carry a weapon. He saved people's lives. And he put in for a transfer, so they shipped him to a medevac unit, where he flew in those Hueys, the helicopters, would fly into hot LZs, with young grunts on the ground who were wounded. Ed would fly in, get off that chopper, get those kids on that chopper, and fly them back to the base camp, back to a field hospital. Nobody knows that about Ed O'Connell. Ed O'Connell saved more kids' lives than you'll ever know. And to me, that made him a hero in my eyes. Because as a grunt, those guys were everything to the grunts. So Ed saved these kids' lives who would be crying for their mothers. Or if they didn't make it, the last words they heard were from Ed O'Connell, helping them make that transition. The last soothing words they would hear would be from Ed O'Connell. You know, lots of veterans who are here today will tell you, and it's from Vietnam to the current global war on terrorism, when you hear a helicopter, you just get this automatic, you look up, you get that feeling. And you guys know what I'm talking about, Chris, Wes, all you other guys that served in the military, you hear a helicopter, and it always meant that somebody was coming to get you, to take you to some place you didn't want to go, or they were coming to get you out of a place you didn't want to be in. I don't think I'll ever hear a helicopter now and not think of Ed O'Connell. We had this thing where Ed, he was always one step ahead of me. He was in Vietnam in 1968. I didn't get there till 1969. He started surfing in 1963. I didn't start surfing till 1964. My claim to fame in surfing was I was the first American to surf in Nova Scotia. No, you weren't. Because Ed was there a month before you got there. You got to be kidding me, Ed. June of 1971, I made a movie about it. 1971, first Americans in Nova Scotia.
And we believed it.
Yeah. I need Ed. He says, we were there in May. I'm like, what? May of what year? 1971. I'm like, Ed. Some of you know I've had some problems in the past, some health issues. When I found out that Ed was sick, I walked up to him and said, don't tell me. You're going to get to heaven before me. And we laughed about it. We laughed about it. How many of you here have a photograph that Ed O'Connell took? How about that? He was the unknown surfer's best friend. Didn't make a difference who you were. He was going to shoot you. If you caught a good wave, God forbid you fell into a wave and you stood up, he was going to shoot you. That's who Ed was. Ed was the unknown surfer's best friend.
And his favorite line, he could make anybody look good at 1/100th of a second.
That's what he said.
And he did.
We had this thing as surf photographers, and it's no big secret that Nevins is the man. And so whenever he'd see a shot by Nevins, he'd say, Nev. like it was Seinfeld talking about Nevins. But we had, you know how much Ed loved you. We had this special bond, all of us, man. We had this thing going. It was great. Whenever I did the surfing for Molly for a year, Ed would come out and shoot. I said, Ed, you don't have to do this, Ed. No, it's all right. If you're going to go out and shoot, I'll stand there in the snow and shoot. Now, you photographers know that it's a lot colder sometimes standing in the snow taking photos than it is being out in the water surfing. But Ed would shoot time and time again. And I get to the point where my blog, I was looking through the folders of the last 10 years, and Ed O'Connell is there every month. Ralph Ed, Nevins, Ralph Ed, Ralph. And I got to the point where I was jokingly saying, Ed, you got to get out and shoot in the morning. It's dawn patrol. I can't wake up that early. He would jokingly tell Kathy, he referred to me as the man. I got to go. The man's on my back. I became the man. I became the man. How'd that happen? And then I jokingly say, Ed, you missed that swell. I'm going to have to let you go. Because I never paid him a cent. I paid him in laughter and hugs and warmth of just seeing surfing. He loved surfing. Loved surfing. A lot of you don't even know that Ed actually surfed. He was a surfer. Long before there were crowds and the internet and texting and all the stuff that we're so attached to, Ed was out there surfing. His other love was drag car racing. He was into the whole dragster scene. There's a website, it's Eurodragster.com. You should read it because his friend Andy wrote this beautiful eulogy for Ed. It's wonderful. You can get on Eurodragster.com and read about that. His two loves, dragster, for drag racing and surfing. And
yes.
He loved Kathy as the love of his life. So he lived this full life where the woman of his dreams became his wife, his partner. That you guys were together constantly. He was 67 years old. That's not a long time, but a long time when you think about some of the kids that didn't make it back, that he had to carry up those choppers. So Ed O'Connell and his photographs. I created the blog now, Ed's Corner, on my blog. So every week, until I'm no longer on this planet, I'm going to feature one of Ed's photos. Not because he deserved it, because he earned it. Earned it. The first thing that Ed ever said to me, the very first thing he ever said to me was, "I'm glad you made it back, Ralph." I said, "I'm glad you made it back too, Ed. Glad you made it back." I'm gonna miss him for the rest of time. I keep thinking I see him standing over there in the corner shooting. I look at the wall, I look down, I think I see him shooting. Every swell I'd call up and talk to somebody. Anybody out shooting? Ed's shooting. Where's he at? He's at the Rocks. Ed's shooting. Where's he at? He's at Fox Hill. So I would go someplace opposite. He took some amazing photos of all of you. I've seen him 100 times. Glad you made it back, Ed. Glad you made it back. If anybody else has any words they'd like to say here, you can say some now, or we can paddle out and talk out there. Some of you that are not going to paddle, if you want to say something.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Don.
Ralph, I need to hit you hard, but one other thing you weren't the first. One of the best pictures in my house is of a blatant drop-in. My daughter on me. And it's prominently on the wall. And I believe you assisted us in getting that from Ed's copy. But Ed wasn't just any real surfer, experienced surfer's photographer. As Ralph said, he'd shoot anybody, always, all the time, no holes barred, no problem with it. But I'd like to also point out that Ed was kind of my doctor in the psychology angle, because I'd come in bitching and moaning that I had a bad day. And he'd say, "Well, Kevin, I got a great shot of you, and remember, I can make anybody look good at 1/100th of a second." And he'd calm me down and send me on my way, happy, and hopefully forgetting that I had a horrible day. But he was also a doctor. So I'd like to thank him for all of that, too.
Thanks, Don. Anybody else?
I got something. Last year, Hurricane Nemo, I don't know if you guys all remember this, but we had some pretty good surf here. I spent the day after the storm shoveling my driveway out all day, and I got down here at like 3, 4 o'clock. It was like getting dark, and I paddled out. It was like big and stormy and just kind of really shitty, but like one of the best sessions I've ever had here. And I got home and there's a photo Ed took from over there, and no one else that was out surfing even around the beach that day. And you know, it just shows Ed go out in crazy big storm, you know, when no one's even around the ocean, just to take the photo of the one guy sitting there. And I think he got like one crappy photo of me surfing the wave, but it's my favorite photo here all time, and I'm not even on a wave. It's just me sitting there. And just shows Ed loved all of us. He just wanted to make us all happy with photos any way he could. So, you know, take a moment and thank Ed. Great guy.
Yeah.
And I'm living proof that it could make somebody look good in that 1/100th of a second. I'm not a good surfer, but he got a picture of the summer night with another lighthouse in the background that is on my wall. And another leave my wall. Yeah. I like to just sit back, and all I can think about is laughing. When he laughed, it was so distinct, and it was more of a chuckle. I won't forget. I won't forget. Certainly, from all those years back in Cambridge, he has Ed, great attitude about life.
Everybody, this is Ed's brother Dan. Just showed up.
Hi, Dan. Ah, that's funny.
I have one surf story. Ed's first surf story with me. We were in high school, and Ed started reading surfing magazines and decided he had to do it. And Ed and I had our tensions during the high school years. I'm 2.5 years younger than Ed. But he didn't have enough money to buy the board, so he came to me and said, we should buy a board together. A very brotherly thing to do. So there was a surf shop on Route 1 that he scoped out. There weren't many places selling surfboards way back then. And we went, and they had 2 boards in stock. One was 9'2", and the other one was 10'6" long. And the guy said to us, if you're really good, you should buy the 9'2". Ed said, we'll take the 10'6". And we bought the Tiki by Ventura, was the name of the board, and put it on the top of Ed's 57 Chevrolet. And both learned to surf together. It was a passion for Ed throughout his life. I didn't quite do as well, but I did pay for half of the surf.
That's great.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
For those of you who are not familiar with the surfer's paddle, what we do is we all take rowers, we paddle out, we're going to paddle out to the boil out there and create a big circle. We'll create a big circle. Some more surfers are going to talk out there, and then you'll hear a loud hoot, a loud like yell. It's a hoot for Ed, and then we all come back in. It's pretty simple, but surfing is not rocket science. It's what we do. It's very simple. If anyone else has anything to say, we can, otherwise. I just want to leave you with this one last thought. Ed passed away on July 1st. On July 5th, I had a dream about it. We were in Rhode Island. I was driving a bus, and Ed was my passenger. And we were driving along the ocean. And I went off the road and onto this cobblestone beach, and all of a sudden, boom, I hit something. And I looked over at Ed, and he yelled this, Ralph, look out! And I looked over, and we pushed the bus back out inside of the drive, and I looked over at Ed and said, Ed, we should spend the whole day in Rhode Island and expose every single break. Ed just started to laugh, and that loud, bellowing laugh as we drove off, and then I just kind of woke up. But so there was Ed 5 days after he passed. He came for a visit, and we were talking about shooting. You know we would never expose any break. You know that. Let's go out and do a paddle for Ed, you guys.
Come here, hold that, honey. Very nice.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Say a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear. In grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I've already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. Oh, He will shield and portion be as long as life endures. Yeah, when this flesh and heart shall fail, in mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within this veil a life of joy and peace. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see.